A coal mine explosion killed at least 16 laborers and injured several others in southwest Pakistan, with over a dozen still trapped. Director of Disaster Management Atullah Khan said methane gas had caused the explosion in a mine some 60 kilometers east of Quetta city, capital of Balochistan province. Khan said that they had retrieved 11 bodies, adding that over a dozen laborers were still trapped in the mine. Rescue work was in progress. An explosion in the Gaza Strip killed 6 Hamas gunmen. Palestinian officials and residents are unclear about the cause of the blast. The armed wing of the Islamist group Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip, blamed Israel for the explosion. The Israeli military has denied any involvement in Saturday's Gaza explosion. A federal judge said special counsel Robert Mueller should not have unfettered power in probing ties between President Donald Trump's campaign and Russia, and accused Mueller of using criminal cases to pressure Trump's allies to turn against him. At a tense hearing in a federal court in Virginia, U.S. District Judge sharply questioned whether Mueller exceeded his authority in filing tax and bank fraud charges against Trump's former campaign manager Paul Manafort. President Donald Trump's lawyer Rudy Giuliani sounded an optimistic note, but upcoming talks between Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, telling reporters that maybe it will result in a nuclear-free North Korea. In an interview on Fox on Friends, Giuliani unexpectedly waded into the conversation about U.S.-North Korean relations when he had predicted that 3 American detainees held by North Korea would be released that same day, which did not happen. A self-anchored suspension bridge in southwest China's Chongqing entered into its connection stage as the last steel box got installed on it. According to the construction crew, the bridge, as part of a rail ring, consists of 69 steel blocks. The heaviest was weighing 408 tons, and the newly installed one is the lightest among them. The length of the whole rail ring is 50.8 kilometers, which will connect major stations in the city. Around 200 protesters have been detained in St. Petersburg by police during street protests. The protest was part of a nationwide show of contempt called for by opposition leader Alexei Navalny ahead of Vladimir Putin's inauguration for a 4th term as president of Russia. St. Petersburg experienced the 2nd highest rate of detentions, following the capital Moscow, where around 570 people were detained, including Navalny. Meanwhile, in Russia's Yekaterinburg, over 1,000 protesters gathered ahead of the inauguration of President Vladimir Putin. Protesters marched through the city center and made several stops for rallies on the way. They were calling for Putin's resignation, release of political prisoners, and renovation of the country's authority. Scuffles erupted in Paris's Bastille Square when riot police intervened to extricate a vehicle damaged by some protesters. Under heavy police presence, tens of thousands of demonstrators took to the streets in Paris to protest against the stream of economic reforms brought in by French President Emmanuel Macron since coming to power a year ago. Protesters bearing "Stop Macron" banners and chanting "1 year is enough" were cheered on by drummers and marching bands in an anti-celebration of Macron's time in office organized by a member of the hard-left France Unbowed movement. Lebanon will hold its first parliamentary election in 9 years today, with candidates vying for 128 seats that are divided among 11 religious groups according to a strict sectarian power-sharing system. Lebanon's government election officials collected ballot boxes from various distribution centers across Lebanon ahead of the polling stations opening shortly. The country has entered a period of election silence during which campaigning is banned till polls close. Hawaii's Department of Defense flew over the island of Hawaii to survey damage of the lava path trailing through the landscape after the Kilauea volcano erupted on Thursday. Earthquakes, lava fissures have put Hawaii's Big Island on high alert. Kilauea began spewing lava into residential areas after a series of earthquakes over the past week. Kilauea is one of the world's most active volcanoes and has been in constant eruption for 35 years. Flash floods caused by heavy rain wreaked havoc in the Turkish capital Ankara's Mamak district, injuring 6 people. Videos obtained by private news agencies show dramatic footage of drivers trying to escape from their vehicles and several cars being swept down the street by floodwaters. Municipality workers rushed to the scene to pull out stranded cars. Dozens of vehicles were damaged and many shops were flooded. A California man accused along with his wife of keeping 13 siblings imprisoned, chained and starving in their suburban home has been charged with perjury over his claims that he was running a private school with the children as his pupils. A judge also set a preliminary hearing date in June for David and Louis Turpin, whose arrest made international headlines in January after their emaciated teenage daughter escaped from the squalid home and called police. German police launched a raid on a migrant shelter after 150 asylum seekers clashed with police and thwarted their efforts to deport a 23-year-old man from Togo. The clashes have hit the headlines, prompting some conservatives and the far-right Alternative for Germany to say the arrival of more than 1.6 million migrants since 2014 has led to a collapse of law and order. Protesters held banners reading "Down with Capitalism" and "Father of all Dictators" at the unveiling of a controversial statue of Karl Marx in the German city of Trier, the birthplace of the influential philosopher. The towering bronze sculpture, a gift from China to mark Saturday's 200th birthday of the founding father of communism, has provoked controversy in Trier, where Marx spent the first 17 years of his life and beyond. German Chancellor Angela Merkel praised French President Emmanuel Macron for giving fresh impetus to the European project, lauding his elan despite differences between France and Germany over trade policy. Germany is pushing the idea of an agreement to lower tariffs across a broad spectrum of products, but France insists that there must be a permanent and unconditional exemption for the European Union from US steel and aluminium tariffs. A massive landslide buried a road section in southwest China's Sichuan province, terrifying the people who witnessed the disaster. Soil and boulders estimated over 50,000 cubic meters in volume cut off a nearby road and partially blocked a nearby river. Local government immediately deployed traffic police officers and road maintenance workers to handle the situation. Strong winds wreaked havoc in southern Ontario, leaving 2 people dead and thousands without electricity. Wind gusts of 90 to 100 kilometers an hour were reported. Police said a tree fell on 2 men and one was pronounced dead at the scene and the other was rushed to local hospital with life-threatening injuries. Another man was pronounced dead after witnesses saw him clearing downed wires from a roadway. Colombia and the ELN rebels said that they will move peace negotiations to end more than 5 decades of war to Cuba after original host Ecuador pulled its support for the talks. The Andean nation has been at war with the National Liberation Army, founded by radical Catholic priests, since 1964. The government of outgoing President Juan Manuel Santos and the ELN started formal talks 15 months ago in Quito. Thai pro-democracy activists vowed to march on the seat of government to mark the 4th anniversary of a military group comparing the junta leader to Pinocchio for not holding promised elections. The military that seized power on May 22, 2014 in the name of curbing political instability banned gatherings of more than 5 people and repeatedly dangled the prospect of a return to democracy. Peruvian activists took to the streets of Lima to demand that the country's health ministry draft the regulations for producing and commercializing cannabis oil. In October 2017, Peru's Conservative Congress passed a bill to legalize medical marijuana, allowing cannabis oil to be produced and imported and commercialized. The regulations had been promised 60 days after the bill was passed, but they have yet to be drafted. Pro-independence Catalan politicians aim to nominate former leader Carles Puigdemont to head their regional government in defiance of Spain and despite his self-imposed exile in Germany. After meeting Puigdemont in Berlin, where he's currently waiting for Germany to rule on a Spanish request to extradite him, a spokeswoman for the secessionist group in the regional parliament said that they wanted to install him by May 14th. Syrian rebel fighters and their family members continued to leave their South Damascus enclave for opposition-held areas in northern Syria. Rebels began pulling out after they surrendered on Thursday. Some 5,000 fighters and their family members are expected to leave Beit Sham, Babila and Yalda neighborhoods. Britain's royal family released the first 2 official photographs of newly born Prince Louis. One of the photographs shows the prince being held by his 3-year-old sister, Princess Charlotte Louis, who is 5th in line to the British throne. He was born on April 23rd. Both the photographs were taken at Kensington Palace by Kate, the children's mother and wife of Prince William. During a routine patrol mission, employees of the Baishu River National Reserve in China found from the footage recorded by their infrared cameras trained on several spots that 4 pairs of wild giant pandas, with each pair being a mother and a cub, have been showing up in the area since the end of 2017. The footages show that the giant panda cubs followed their mothers closely and practiced their foraging skills. An Atlas V rocket soared into space from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, carrying NASA's first robotic lander designed for exploring the deep interior of another planet on its voyage to Mars. The Mars Insight probe lifted off from the central California, treating early rising residents across a wide swath of the strait to the luminous pre-dawn spectacle of the first U.S. interplanetary spacecraft to be launched over the Pacific. Controversial quotes were reportedly found written on the door of a chapel at Delhi University's St. Stephen's College. However, the messages were cleared as soon as the authorities were informed. The college administration had announced preparatory holidays for students starting April 28th. Only those who have practical exams to take are still attending college. The Delhi police has dismissed the controversial quotes as rumors. According to a report, a cluster of Victorian and Art Deco buildings in Mumbai's Oval Maidan and Marine Drive precincts have been recommended for the UNESCO World Heritage Site tag. UNESCO's technical arm, International Council of Monuments and Sites, or ICOMOS, has reportedly given the go-ahead for the South Mumbai enclave to receive the distinction. Congress leader Manish Shankaraya has again sparked a controversy by lauding Muhammad Ali Jinnah at a time when top political leaders of both BJP and Congress are busy clearing their stand on the founder of Pakistan. Iyer used the Urdu phrase Quaid-e-Azam for Jinnah. Quaid-e-Azam, which means the great leader, is an honorific used in Pakistan to describe Jinnah. Two Bhutanese nationals were arrested with 8-feet-long leopards skinned by forest officials in India's eastern Jalpaiguri district. The forest officials acted on an anonymous tip-off and nabbed the smugglers who were transporting the poached skin to hill city of Kalimpong in the state. The killed leopard was an adult male. The arrested Bhutanese nationals will be produced in court. After all, necessary steps have been taken. Japanese Parliamentary Vice Minister of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism Masatoshi Akimoto inspected the ongoing progress being made on Indo-Japan Speed Rail project in India's industrial Ahmedabad city. Akimoto visited Ahmedabad's railway station and the construction site on Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project in Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's home state of Gujarat. Mega or the Ahmedabad Metro is an under-construction mass transit rail system for Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar in the state.